All right, welcome back to KCTCG, and we're back with Tom. What did you do this weekend?
I made top 4 at the Omaha, Nebraska Regional. I got 3rd, and I did it with Whitewoods Runick.
Nice, and this is with the new ban list, right?
We're still waiting on that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. All right, well, here's the deck list.
All right. Start with pretty close to Joshua Schmidt's list.
Yeah.
3 of each of these. After playing in the tournament, I cut one of these for one of Stellar. I wouldn't treat it as a starter. I treat it as an extender. You can discard it off Yugioh and bring it back with the second effect. Kind of serves in the same role as this card, but it's just a different name. Would want it for like grind games and certain situations. Drawing multiples of these is like okay, but sometimes it's not very good. The rest of these are just like good cards. So you have to play playsets of them because they're like your most optimal starters. And then the Whitewood Spell and Trap. This one's the Rhoda of the deck. They all have the effect when they're into the graveyard. They set themselves once per turn. Trap. Summons from deck and then synchros. This is the card that people have been adding to their list going for is Chicken Game. This card's bananas. Multiple games during the day, I would draw this, play it, send it off a Whitewoods card, add it back off Diabell, play it, draw again, and then you reset. So you send one and draw one off of this. So multiple times this card would be 3 cards.
That's just so wild.
Talents is broken in this deck. Not only can you use it for the Whitewoods cards, it also is just like good for extending with the Runick engine, just drawing cards to resolve more Runick spells.
Did you ever feel like you needed more than 2?
A lot of people play 3 and they say they want to cut it because you see enough of your deck that you'll eventually see this card. So you'll eventually draw it going through all your lines and stuff. If you could play multiple of this would be like a better card to like. I played the second one of this before I lived through one of this. We'll see what the ban list does. Spiting Storm, the Runick spells, and 2 Dispelling. I may make one of these Golden Droplet to resolve another effect, but Dispelling came up multiple times against like Snake Eyes opponents and stuff like game states where they'd use like a bonfire or something, and this card would just like put it over the edge by ripping out pieces of their engine or making them feel like they need to chain stuff in their hands.
Yeah.
And then like 3 of each of the good one, 3 Flashing Fire, 3 Freezing Curses, 3 Tip,
The engine.
3 Slumber, 3 Destruction, 2 Fountain. Very obvious you're going to play all these cards.
Oh, yeah. Crazy cards. So good.
And then 3 Evenly Matched. This is the best going second card in this deck. If you draw it going first, you can just discard off of like Hugin or any of the Whitewoods cards to extend your lines. And then it also was really important going second against lots of decks to out their boards. Like this is really good against Yubel. Like they have to have the nuts board to like stop you from usually resolving this card. And then if you have like good Runick spells, like if you have Destruction and Flashing Fire or Destruction and Freezing Curses with this in your hand, you always out their board. Konami, you need to ban this card or limit it to 1 at least.
Yeah, I heard you were being really gross with this all day long.
Yeah, multiple times I had multiple of these face up on the field. My opponent just couldn't out them. There's an even more degenerate card in the side deck that a lot of people don't know about that should be played in this deck. But yeah, this card won me multiple games. A lot of times my opponent just scooped me flipping this card.
Oh yeah, so good.
Pretty insane. On to the extra deck. Big level 10 synchros, Shingus and Chaos Angel. This card just insulates your board. It can also out cards that are like hard to deal with. This card is non-targeting removal and he gets huge because you banish like 20 cards from your opponent's deck over the course of the game. So it's like a 5k that's reducing all their stuff by 2k. Level 6 cards just to redraw. The most cards I ever drew in a turn during the course of the tournament was in a turn I drew 3 off Fountain, 3 off Fountain, 2 off Fountain, and then 1 off this, 1 off this, 2 off of Chicken Game, and 1 off Rosette. So it was like 12 cards I think in one turn is the most I've drawn.
That's so many.
Yeah, and then the Whitewoods cards. These are all pretty broken. This one's a Blue Eclipse when it's summoned. This one dumps a spell to add a new Whitewoods or Light Spellcaster card. Really relevant is Light Spellcaster card for some of the tech cards that you play, like Effect Veiler and stuff. To add from your deck to your hand, those will be in the side deck. And then this card can can add back any spell or trap whenever it's synchro summon using a synchro tuner. as well as it summons a synchro tuner from your extra deck if your opponent activates a card or effect. Lots of times when my opponent activates a Tenpai field spell, and I would just send a card and summon the MVP as Zapper Shrimp, just pop their field spell. During the tournament, there was an instance where I outed 2 Tenpai field spells by having this on the field, summon this, pitched a card, popped one, and then quick synchroed into this out of the second field spell before they could activate it. And then I'd usually have like a Chain Ying, and I could use the Chain Ying to banish anything else in play.
That's so strong.
Then for the Runick cards, 2 Gary, 3 Hugin. This deck turns through these cards a lot because there's a specific lack of non-tuners. One of the reasons I wanted to add one as Stellar to the deck is it summons as a non-tuner, so a lot of the times if you draw it and you pitch it and then summon it back, because it summons back whenever you send a spell or trap, which always happens when you're comboing off, you can essentially not summon one of the Hugins during the course of your combo. You can serve it in the extra deck. There's an issue I ran into a lot where I go through all my Hugins in my grind games. SP Little Knight is your 1 link monster. This just the generic, triggers Chain Ying, good at dodging interaction, can move out of the extra monster zone pretty easily. Last card, Typhon. This is the worst card in the extra deck. After playing in the regional, as nice as having this card in Runick's decks is, a lot of the times, if you're able to just play with your engine and like resolve a skill drain or a fountain gets up and you have like 3 Runick spells in game, grave, you win the game. The games that you don't win are like games where you get like drolled or shifted. And I would rather, since I have like access to a lot of level 4s in the engine and Gary's, I'd rather just replace this than Baguska.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like
to grind the game out. Yeah, I think adding the Stellar will help this grind game by not making you go through as many of these. Just 1 copy of it. Not use it as a starter, just use it as an extender after ditching it off Hugin. And then a Baguska will help me play through just like absolute stun. I think those are the 2 changes I'd make with the deck, if anything.
Okay.
Now moving on to the side deck. Like Joshua said, this deck's engine relies on having a lot of cards in hand. Either you draw them through your engine, or if your opponent has like a very potent board, you need non-engine to draw through your deck. So these are the best cards to side. Siding in all 60s against like Yugioh. If I want Tenpai to go first and I force them to go first, I can like side in these, and usually if it gets at least 2 draws. Supplemental engine cards, 3 Ash. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this at 2 or 3. It's just really good insulation for going first, and you side out your evenlies. You definitely need cards to side in. Usually I'd side in like 2 of these and like a Baylor going first.
Okay.
This is a searchable engine off of Rucola, because you can search any light spellcaster from your deck. Mourner, just for Snake Eyes going to time. I think I've sided only a grand total of 2 copies of this, like as one-ofs, because I wanted to side out like 9 cards in my main deck because they weren't prevalent in the matchup I was playing, and it's just ended up being like an extra card I sided in. So it was fairly nice. Next, unfortunately, time is a thing.
Time is a thing.
I never use this to win in time. Multiple times I sided this in because my opponent, I would have, if you going first, simplified game state, I'd be under skill drain, they just have a bunch of bodies on field and Snake. And what you do is you like wait till you have Runick spells in hand to interact with their IP or their princess or whatever they have in play. And what you do is you just have them locked under a skill drain with your engine. They summon like 20 bodies. You summon this, you clear their whole board. They're out of resources and stuff.
Yeah.
My only loss was in time. And my opponent, I think it was about 2,000 life points. My opponent's like 6,000. After I resolved this, and like some battle damage was taken on their behalf and my behalf during the course of the game. And I literally just needed like 1 extra minute to win the game. I literally decked them out. They had 0 cards in deck, and going into time, they drew the last card from their deck. So if I just scooped my game 2 earlier, I could have probably won that match. And then the secret sauce. All right, Peter and his homie Alex put me onto this card. This card is the absolute stones. Every time I activate this card and resolve and stay on field, I won the match. So this is just Skill Drain 2 Electric Boogaloo. It's a light spell caster, so it's searchable from the deck. It essentially says if this card is in your graveyard and you set a card to your field, either by game mechanic through like the White Woods cards or setting it directly from your hand like a Runick spell, it'll trigger and go into your pendulum scale. Essentially, monsters that either player controls cannot activate their effects unless you control a set card. So in a lot of instances, this just floodgates out decks. Like against Snake, it forces them to set their one-ins, their Cosmic Cyclones, all their good cards. And in their main deck, they realistically only maybe have like 1 to 2 or 3 copies of Talents, and like maybe a 1-for-1 and original is like maybe 5 cards they could hard draw to set that isn't detrimental for them to set. against this card.
Yeah, I saw you play that card, and it was
There's multiple
crazy.
times where I just had like these cards up in my field, and my opponent was just like sitting there with like SpongeBob, like looking in each direction,
Yeah.
like not able to choose which card to out, and they just won me matches. These are like really degenerate cards. This one definitely should be a hit. This is easier to play around, but
Yeah.
it's also really stupid.
It's kind of crazy.
It just works way better in the engine because he's a light spell caster. You can search him off this card, and then
Whack.
you can discard him off Hugin, and then you can set a White Woods card and use triggers and goes in your Pendulum Scale. So it's like it's perfect
That's
synergy with the
actually
deck.
insane.
Yeah, Peter and his friend Axel. We're playing 3 of this in the main deck over Skill Drain and siding the Skill Drains, I think.
Really?
And we were discussing it a lot. And as good as that is, you're just going to run into a lot of rogue at like a regional level. Like at a YCS, I might consider doing like a 2-2 split of these.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But like, this card is just so insane. Like, I think the only deck this might not be super great against is like Yugioh, because they just have all the continuous spells they can set and flip up later in the turn. But like in the mirror, this is even good because they have to set they can't like resolve a Hugin. They have to set their quick play spells and stuff.
Right.
They just can't use them during the course of the turn.
So
all
good.
sorts of stuff. Yeah, just
Yeah,
absolutely broken.
that card seemed insane when I saw you putting it on the board.
It literally won me every game. Like, I activated against a Tempai player, and he picked up and read it and had a set judgment, and it was like, I literally have to judgment this card, otherwise I just lose the match. So he judgmented this and that let me resolve my like 2 other spells, and I actually won the game by being able to resolve those. Just put him in a really awkward game
Yikes.
position. Yeah, I think this deck played perfectly. Like I said, the only changes I make are the ones I described. Like, Baguska needs to be in here. Probably one of Stellar needs to be in here as an extender as opposed to a starter in the deck.
Okay.
Everything else is perfect. I might have cut it like one of each of these for 2 different cards. Wish I could find room to move this to the extra deck, but extra deck's just like way too tight.
Fair enough.
That's about it.
Yeah, the extra decks nowadays are crazy. Well, thanks for the deck profile. Any other shout outs or thoughts?
Yeah, shout out to Peter and Axel for putting me on this card. Shout out to the Geekery for providing me like a static play environment that I can always playtest in. I only playtested this deck for like 2 locals before I played it in the regional, so I got a lot of good reps here. And shout out to like all the homies, Michael, Brady, Alec, everyone for giving a good playtesting environment and good criticism on what should be added and cut to decks. Let me help make a lot of decisions before I decide to play this deck.
Awesome, man. Really appreciate it. Congratulations. So awesome. The Engraver Mat is just so fire.
It's at home. I did not bring it. I did not have enough room in my bag.
Claw. All right.
not.
Thanks.